Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Taco Bell for Tacos Tall Tales on Tuesday. And I'm telling you, I'm excited today. We've got my guest, very special friend, Mark Seavey, who is of the Burn Pit fame, American Legion, soldier, deployed, journalist, guy, advocate for all of us veterans. And just one incredible person to sit down and talk. We've just been reliving some of the moments of our more spectacular friends that were in our lives through Stolen Valor. And for those of you who don't know what Stolen Valor is basically claiming that you are a military person, maybe some exaggerated experience over in the war, fake medals, the whole nine yards. Usually folks do it for one of three things: to impress a girl, that's usually a big one, right? Try to get some free stuff from somebody, and the other one just to, who knows why they do it. But anyway, I've got Mark Seavey, and I'd like to bring him into the studio right now. Please welcome Mark. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, man, doing great. Doing great. It's so good to see you. And I think the last time was Gainesville, and right before you had the twins.
I think that is the last time. I think, and I need to go back to Gainesville. I don't know when they're going to do that event again, but that Gainesville, Texas Medal of Honor event is one of my favorites in the entire world. I love it.
Yeah, I can't wait till this COVID thing goes away so that we can.
We'll have to get the Fox out and get to.
Yeah, bring the Fox and the ferret. I'll have to teach you how to drive the ferret, and then you can drive one.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to think back. First time I met you was through the mill blogs back in the day, right?
Were you at the Vegas one?
I did make Vegas. I did DC with my parents, and my mom worked with you on that one private.
The private from the Band of Brothers. And I can't remember it. Now it's going to kill me, but yeah, I found a Purple Heart. I remember it was donated by a Salvation Army in upstate New York, and they had contacted me and said, we found this medal, this Purple Heart medal. And in looking through the name, it turned out to be a member of Easy Company from the Band of Brothers. And he was one of the guys that flew in on the first stick. And your mom helped me locate some info about him. And then I drove all over Indiana. Turned out, ironically, he was from near me in Indiana. He had been in the exact same unit I was in the National Guard, in the Virginia National Guard. And it turned out that his last living relative actually worked at the Citadel where I went to college. So I got to take the Purple Heart down to the Citadel and return it to the family. So that was
my mom says Private Richard Owen. That was
Richard Owen. That's exactly.
Thank you, Mom. Out there in La La Land, you can hear me. That was a great article, great piece that was in the Burn Pit.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That one was
very, very proud of my mom for helping with that.
She was great. She had so much info. She had dug. She's much better at that sort of stuff than I am. I'm good at running around on the ground and going and looking at small towns and everything. But your mom had the entire history of that guy. She knew everything about that guy. It was amazing. Yeah.
Well, that's where I get mine from, right? Her dragging me around to graveyards and going to courthouses and all that. Oh my God. So how did you get into This Ain't Hell with Jonn? How did you and Jonn meet?
Yeah, so when I got back from Afghanistan as a soldier, we had been operating sort of an underground newspaper that was more like the Onion kind of thing. And we were enlisted guys. We were NCOs, actually. So we were kind of goofing on our command. And our command, shockingly, found it kind of funny. So we were allowed to distribute our underground newspaper. And when we came back to the States, we decided to put it online just for the guys in our unit. And at the same time, Jonn had This Ain't Hell going, and he and I both got invited to the Iraq Veterans Against the War. It was called Winter Soldier Hearings. These guys, I have nothing against IVAW generally. Like most of the people I met were, they're okay, but their stories were crazy, insane, and couldn't plausibly be actual things. So Jonn and I were called in to sort of monitor what was true and what was false. We didn't find a lot of true. We found a lot of false. And that was how I got to know Jonn. And right around then is when Stolen Valor really took off. And instead of doing it, each of us at our separate blogs, John asked me, he's like, hey, do you want to come over and write for me? I was like, absolutely, sure. Yeah, it was a good thing. And I was in law school at the time, so I had a pretty good idea of what we were dealing with in terms of the legality. But this was before the Stolen Valor Act got overturned by the Supreme Court. So we were working that angle, but it was a pretty fun and wild time. There were some guys that just had stories that, if someone tells you a story that's unbelievable, good likelihood it's unbelievable for a reason. And we were finding that left and right. So
that, to me, coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, I think it was in late 08. No, maybe it was 09. I got a phone call from one of my Marine buddies who's deployed, and it was from his wife. And she goes, hey, my brother-in-law is trying to verify if this guy is actually a Marine before they foreclose on his house. They want to do due diligence, GMAC. Can you find out if this guy's really a Marine? And I said, okay, Mike's deployed. Yeah, sure, no problem. So I get on, she gets me hooked up with the lawyer from GMAC. He sends me all this paperwork, newspaper articles, fake orders, all sorts of stuff. Like the guy had filed under Soldier Sailor Relief Act to not get foreclosed on. Well, as I read the newspaper articles, it intrigued me because it had all of these points that stood out. And it's like Andrew Diabo, never forget, Diabo, Andrew Diabo, West Point grad, Marine Lieutenant Colonel, helicopter pilot, Silver Star recipient, medically wounded, and I think that was it. So I immediately picked up my phone, called my buddy Scott Casey, who was up at MCRIC at Marine Corps Recruiting Command, and he's like going through the records. No, there's never been a guy cross-commissioned named Andrew Diabo. So then I call West Point, and I put in a FOIA with them. Never been a guy named Andrew Diabo ever attended.
Yeah.
Then I call a Marine that worked for me who was in the McWITS, the Marine Corps Wounded or Ill tracking thing. Hey, I don't want to know anything about this guy. I just want to know, is his name in the database? And he says, no, sir, it's not. Then I call another Navy buddy down in Corpus, and he goes through. We have a database of every guy that has the gold wings.
Yep.
So he goes through. No such guy ever got a gold wing. And then the orders came in through, brought him on active duty in Honolulu. So I called my NCIS buddy up from Iraq, and I go, you got any connections in Honolulu? And he goes, yeah. Here, call this guy. So I call him up, send him the information. He goes to the address on the header of the orders, and it's the Burger King on Honolulu. Yeah. So I put all this stuff together. Then all of a sudden I get in contact with this Larry King, who is a reporter, not the other Larry King. He's the little Larry King. And he and I worked together, and we busted this guy wide open. He had stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from people pretending to be a wounded Marine whose house needed repairs and all this stuff. And that's what really pissed me off was all these people, when they found out he was a fake, what are they going to do when a guy really needs it?
Right. And that was our argument right from Jump Street about the Stolen Valor law, was the fact that these guys are literally taking it from the people that should be getting it. So anytime you have an organization that actually needs the money to do something, and then you have all these stories bogging it down, it makes it tough for everybody. And there's no, especially back then, it was kind of the Wild West of Stolen Valor. There was nobody to really go out to who knew how to go through. We certainly didn't know what we were doing back then. Like we had to, we knew vaguely that you had to file FOIAs and everything else. But then once we got it down to a kind of more of a science, it was, there's the big ones are always easy. If someone claims he's a Medal of Honor recipient, all of us know how to look that up. That one's pretty easy. And then it was like we met Chief Shipley, and he had all the SEAL ones. So between,
and Mary Shanty.
Mary is always, Mary still does my FOIAs most of the time. So it was, and, we were working with Doug Sterner at the time, who was still super active in it. And I've talked to him numerous times since. And actually we were hanging out at the Supreme Court decision on Stolen Valor. So like everybody was trying to find their way. Now it's a little bit easier. Like particularly in the Army, you can look it all up online now for the most part. If you have access to whatever the new version of the Army Knowledge online, you could see if somebody's in there.
Right.
But back in the day, it would take weeks or months of tracking these guys down, and you would become so invested in one case. Yeah. Now it's nothing to have cases come and go within a week or 2 weeks time. And there's just as many cases out there now. And for the most part, guys that we've busted in the past still show up all the time. Like they don't learn. It's not like they learned their lesson the first time. They still show up all the time for, it's like Jonn Lilyea always said, they're never guilty of just stolen valor. There's none that we run into that are just happening. You talked about the 3 major types. John and I had talked early on, and we're like, we're not tracking dudes who lie at a bar to a girl. Like that's right. Because that opens the floodgates and there's nothing. So we had come up with a set of rules, and it was basically like, if you have it on your Facebook page, and you've got the Navy SEAL trident, and then you're photoshopping pictures of yourself into missions, that's a stolen valor case. The dude down at the bar telling the girl that he got the silver star and he'd like to show you his wounds, whatever, like that one we're going to let fly, because there was just too many of them. Back then, you really afford to be choosy. Nowadays, they come out so rapidly. Not 2 days goes by that we don't find somebody in the news that's just not telling the truth.
Yeah, it blew me away. It would blow me away. I mean, there's this thing called the interweb, right? Or internet, or whatever Al Gore invented. Yeah. So for me to get on there and claim that, did I tell you the time that I was a Afghan national general when I went to the Afghan National Police? No? See, look, prove it, And you get on the internet and you start digging stuff up and looking, and you realize, wait a minute, this guy's not in this database, this guy's not this. And then as you're researching and you're looking at his medals and his ribbons and how bad he was, I don't know why they do it. That's what
always amazed me was there was one guy we busted, and I won't go too far in it because I don't even want to deal with the litigation of it anymore. But this guy had a multi-million-dollar company, and it is still out there, and it does business. He does business with a contractor that you own stock in, I know, and I own some stock in as well. And this guy is a big name, and he was a fake SEAL, and we had him busted. I mean, it was like he was like, "Oh, I never said I was a Navy SEAL," and it's like, "Here's the video of you saying I am a Navy SEAL." And so we totally busted the guy. So he hires 2 other guys to handle us. He hires a private detective, and he hires this other guy to like handle the affair. Both of those guys were stolen valor, and it was like, wait a minute, now we've gone from 1 stolen valor to 3, and one of them used to be on Fox News all the time as like a special correspondent on security issues. And we found out, he's lying about his military career, and I have contacts at Fox News, and so I said, hey, that guy is fake. But it's like they permeate out of nothing. Somehow these guys all coalesce, and they all back each other up. So you'll have one guy claim he was in the Navy SEALs, and then his 4 buddies will be like, yeah, remember we were on that mission to Libya? And it's like, no, you don't remember that mission to Libya. You were not. We had one Navy SEAL that claimed that he was selected. The Navy SEALs recruited him from a video game arcade in Ocean City, Maryland. And that 3 weeks later, he was doing his first mission into Libya. And it was like, what are you talking about? Like, no rational human being would believe this. And yet he had 4 other guys backing him up on this Navy SEAL excursion to Libya.
And the crazy thing is, after a while, maybe you become hardened, but trust but verify.
Yeah.
And within 1 week, I had 3 guys tell me they got the Silver Star in Vietnam. So one guy, not 1 but 2. All 2 of them were snipers in Vietnam, and the other one was recon. And 2 of them, one of them I've known since I was a young lieutenant. So after hearing this, I was like, I FOIA'd all 3 records.
Yeah.
And the one guy that I would have said, was probably bullshitting me or pulling my leg, 2 Silver Stars in Vietnam, designated Marine sniper. The other guy was a admin dude, and the other guy was a real recon guy. But then we published his book, his memoirs. I helped get his book published. And when I get his record, I start doing the math and figuring out that this guy couldn't have been in the first initial invasion of Korea as a young 16-year-old because he was this age, you know? So my faith in, you know, trust but verify. And it's just kind of crazy. We were at Skyball. You've heard of that.
It literally happens all the time too. I remember John, he would send me some and he's like, man, I really hope this guy's legit because we've bought in 100%. And you feel bad even checking it.
Yeah.
But you don't have any option B. There's just so many unbelievable stories out there. Some of them happen to be accurate, but you don't know that until you check, thanks to these other guys who ruin it for everybody.
Right. I'll show you a couple here.
Yeah.
Remember Dick Stoops?
Dick Stoops. Yeah. He had it going on. Yeah. There's your buddy.
That's Andrew.
Yeah. That guy was, I remember John, that one specifically, John sent to me and he's like, I don't know. At first glance, he looks real. I was just like, yeah, he sure looks real. All right.
Master Gunny SEAL, right?
Nothing fake about that guy whatsoever.
It took a while to catch him. Now,
these take a lot of outlay of funds to buy all this crap.
Oh, well, all right. So this is Gunny Perry, PJ Perry. He shows up at our Skyball with the Navajo Indians, right? And he does this prayer dance, and he's on Jumbotron, 70-foot Jumbotrons. So I'm with this wounded Army kid that was a medic, and he's got a Purple Heart, and he's in a wheelchair. Yeah. And he looks at all his Purple Hearts, and he goes, God, that guy's lucky. He has 3 Purple Hearts, and he's still walking. And so as I'm looking at all of his stuff, I went up afterwards. He comes back, and you can see my buddy standing next to him. I go, hey, Scott, go get a picture with the gunny. And he goes, whatever you do, don't put this on the internet. I go, yeah, sure, no worries. And then I go, hey, we would love to have you as a guest speaker for our Marine Corps birthday ball. Do you have a card? So he gives me his card. Then I call him up about 2 weeks later, and I go, hey, man, hey, this is Bill Christensen. I was at that Skyball. I'm the employee newspaper, and I want to do a little follow-up with you. How did you become a POW in Vietnam? Well, I was on a secret mission and was captured with my friends. My squad was wiped out, and we were transported up the Ho Chi Minh Trail. We were hung upside down, blah, blah, blah. When I finally escaped, I killed my guard. I got my buddy who was now dead, dragged him down to the river, and I used his body as a log to float down the river. And
unless they include the 1973 MPRC fire in there as well, because it always follows the same format. The first is that, well, everything I did was so super secret that there's no record of it. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. And then, you know, the second one is like, well, yeah, none of the other guys I was with survived. And it's like, yeah, no, it still doesn't work that way. And then the third defense is always, it burned up in the National Personnel Records fire. And it's like, yeah, no, that because they still can manage to find the orders giving you these things.
Yeah.
It always follows the same format. Always.
And you know what's sad about that guy? I did the FOIA on him, and it comes back. He had a Bronze Star, 1 Purple Heart, campaign medal. I mean, he had like six things, which to me is, first of all, the Purple Heart. That's to me the highest award that a guy can get because, you know, you've shed blood for this country.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, that's the most important one. And so to look at him, you're like, wow, man. And then come find out he only rates 6. Well, now whenever you see him with the Navajo guys, he only wears his camis and a campaign hat. He doesn't wear his dress blues with all the medals anymore because I exposed him.
We had one guy, and I remember this one really bugged me because it was a guy who was running around with Woody Williams, and he had claimed to have been with Woody at the time that Woody got his Medal of Honor. And then we actually got the records back, and I don't remember exactly what prompted it, but it turned out he had been on like a comfort ship that was like, for shell shock guys during the entire battle. So he couldn't have seen anything. And, you know, when we busted him, it was like, the media ran with it, and they went to Woody, and he was like, "Hey, look, I believed him." It was like, last thing on earth I want to do is make Woody Williams feel bad, like the greatest human being, the greatest patriot that lives today, and we have to, you know, say, well, this guy's kind of been scamming. It's just so painful, and it happens all the time. And some of the ones that we get that are the worst, I think, are the ones where it's like a gravestone, because now you're not fighting with the guy who was lying, you're fighting with his family, who just they don't know any better. They've heard all these stories from the dearly beloved deceased, and they're all, okay, well, he told me he was this, and it's like, well, he was,
or Medal of Honor, or
and they'll go out and they'll get the gravestone and they'll get Silver Star on there, and it's like, he doesn't have a Silver Star. He doesn't have anything even remotely close.
One of the things, when I was on recruiting duty, this guy showed up, and he was up in New York, and this is back in 2012. His name was George Bermudez or something, and this guy, I think I've got no, I don't have a picture of him getting arrested, but this guy showed up in the recruiting command,
wearing
that is, no kidding, a great uniform. I mean, it's the uniform.
Yeah, sure.
And the worst part was, he had a fake cat card in his wallet that would pass the 2-foot drop test. I mean, if you looked at it, it looked like a real cat card, only if you touched it, it was real flimsy.
Well, he's no Master Sergeant Soup sandwich.
No, but I mean, think about this: how dangerous this would be. That guy got busted on base, didn't he?
He actually went to a Ranger graduation ceremony dressed up in this, which is startling. Like, startling.
What scares me about that stuff is, what if that was a terrorist,
right,
who got onto base because the mind sees what it wants to see. You got a young Marine captain in uniform. He flashes you an ID and the thing. The guard doesn't take and feel it, look at the back like they do now. You know, you get a lazy guy or a guy that's complacent, and this guy gets through. Or he goes to a high school and claims to be a recruiter, and gets a couple young girls and takes them out, or boys, and takes them out and does something with them. And then, of course, that reflects on the Marine Corps, which pisses me off.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm getting a haircut, and I'm looking, my barber has this coin sitting next to his chair.
Okay.
And I'm like, let me look at that. That's Purple Heart, and that's POW medal. So real quick, I get on there and I Google the guy's name, and the only POW that has his name was from Philippines in World War II. So then I do some other research just while I'm sitting in the chair. And I'm like, hey, can I borrow this coin for a little bit? Yeah, sure. So I take the coin, I track the guy down, I call him up, and I'm like, hey, I'm part of the Young Marine program down on base. We'd like you to be a guest speaker. I understand you were a POW. And he goes, well, you know, I don't like to talk about that stuff, you know, when it happened. And I'm like, all right, well, just between us girls.
You had the ribbon put on a coin, but
no, it gets better. This dude owned a gambling off base gambling deal, right? And somehow he made friends with the senior master chief at the admin down there on base. And next thing you know, he's got a DD-214 making him an E7, a chief. He got out as an E3. So he's now got an ID card making him an E7. He has Purple Heart license plates and all this stuff. And so when I'm talking to him, he goes, I'm like, yeah, come talk to the kids. No, I'm not going to, I don't tell my story on video or anything. Okay, fine. Well, talk to me. So he tells me how he was a radio operator on the ship, which is true. So there's an element of truth in there.
Yeah.
He usually goes on the ship because the Marines are short radio operators. They'd all been whacked on patrols. So he straps a prick, whatever, on his back and goes out there on patrol with the Marines, gets captured by the MVA, dragged up the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and then a platoon of ROC Marines capture him and repatriate him to the Marine Corps down in Chu Lai. He gets wounded and he's back on the ship, and then whatever. So when I get his records, I go through the all of the ships that were on his record, and I find the ship that was actually off the coast of Vietnam. Then I find a guy that's part of the webpage for them, and I look up and I contact him, and he sends me a picture of the radio operator room with this guy in it. And he goes, "Oh yeah," and this guy's a retired Master Chief. He goes, "I remember that guy. Yeah, we used to run around in the Philippines together and stuff. You know, I remember." He says, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." He claims he got captured by the Marines. No, well, NCIS. I tell my buddy at NCIS, and we go to his house because now I've given him all the paperwork. He's got a open shut case.
Yep.
He goes up and we knock on the door, and I'm standing at the door, knock, 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 knock. And I said, Sprayberry is Mr. Sprayberry, GW Sprayberry here. And he goes, "Who is it? I'm going to get my gun." I look at him and I'm like, "Dude, I'm out of here, man. I'm getting behind you. You've got your gun. I don't have mine."
I do remember that name.
Yeah, so it was so funny, man. We went in and we're looking at his "I Love Me" wall with all his POW stuff, and then we get him talking about it. And about that time, he goes, "Okay, so what can I help you with?" And I reach in my briefcase and I pull out his service record and I go, "You want to explain this?" And so we left there with his Purple Heart license plates. We took those. We took his ID, and we took his DD-214 that he was using, or DD-215 that he was using. But that guy. And you know what pissed me off?
I don't know if I ever covered him, but I remember hearing this story.
He's 100% disabled. And that's what pisses me off. He got out in 69 as an able-bodied guy. Now he's 100% disabled. And the VA, I've submitted it to the IG at the VA. I want this guy to lose his little hover around chair. I don't want him to get any disability. When we have guys with no arms, no legs, getting 30% disability.
VA is notoriously bad on that. They had numbers of guys that they had classified as POW within the VA system because you're a higher priority and everything. And if you match the VA's list of POWs against the militaries, it's not even in the ballpark. It was like there were supposed to be 6 from Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and the VA had like 86. And it's like, where did these other 80 come from? Like, what are you doing to vet these people? And the answer is generally nothing. Like, the VA takes you at your word, but I don't understand. And I get why the VA does that you don't want to, fight with somebody. But if it's not matched by the DD-214, you would think that alarm bells would go off. But I remember specifically, I used to do claims for the VA, and I had a guy who claimed that he had PTSD from almost going to the Gulf War. And because he had gone to the National Training Center to train, he didn't get to go. And one of his problems was that he couldn't have children because he has this PTSD, and he had like 7 children in the file. And it was like, and so I wrote it up. I was like, how dare we let this poor man down like that? And they gave him like 100%. And I was like, can you not see that this guy is just making it up?
Right.
All the time. They'll take their word for it. I don't understand why.
I think Doug did a deal where he got like 100. They gave him 100 records, and I think 80 of them were all fake. And out of the 20 left, maybe 12 of them had actually served in country in Vietnam, and the other ones were, or maybe 6 had served in country. I can't remember the stat. And the others had served like in Germany or Japan or.
I know a guy who got a Silver Star in Afghanistan, and he was having some problems. So he went to a PTSD counseling. And he said that within the first 15 minutes, he knew that everyone else in the room was lying, and he just couldn't take it. Like, it drove him over the ledge more than not seeking help had. And it's like, I mean, I don't blame you. Like, it wasn't a fun thing for him to get the Silver Star for what he got it for.
Right.
And like, to go into that room where everyone was, telling these crazy, oh, woe is me stories that when it didn't happen.
Well, what was the kid from that IVAW or whatever Iraqi war vet? The kid that said he was playing soccer with heads and stuff.
That was Jesse Macbeth, and he was the very first one. He had suckered the, like you could see his picture right there. There's no part of that uniform that makes any sense.
No
one wears a black T-shirt. He's got his sleeves rolled up like he was in the Marine Corps, only he claimed he was in the Army. he claimed he was a Ranger, but back at the time, this was before the Rangers had switched over to the tan headgear. He was, I don't know if you could see it, but he's wearing his headgear backwards. Like every part of this guy was fake. And there was anti-war groups that were putting out a documentary about this guy. And we were like, no, this is fake. This is like, there's no part of this guy is real. And they're like, well, you're going to need some proof for something like that. And it was like, well, for starters, he has a huge stuttering problem. How many Rangers have you met that stutter?
Right.
Like, you would think that would cause a problem when he's calling for fire on grid coordinate 9. Like, that would be an issue. Like, and, you know, we busted him up pretty good, and he was really where we got started. And then he said later on, well, I was doing it because Iraq Veterans Against the War was paying for my meals and stuff. And it was like, okay, like, and he's gone on to put out like some books on Amazon that are just atrocious, but I get them every time just to kind of read through it and laugh at how horrible the guy is. I keep it on my shelf right next to the Scalia Dissents in hopes that it'll just burn up or something. Like, the guy, it's crazy.
You have Bernath's testimony, 898 legal brief next to it.
Yeah. So, well, Bernath was a special kind of stupid, but I have, for those who don't know, I got sued by a guy. He was guilty of stolen valor. He did stolen valor, but it was the most moderate case of stolen valor I've ever seen. Like,
light. I mean, not even moderate, light. Like
it was
ridiculous.
It was nothing. It was like, and I didn't put it up. Jonn Lilyea put it up, and at the time I was representing him in a legal capacity. And when the next day we got it was like a 137-page legal complaint about this post. And I read through it and I wrote back to the guys like, are you kidding me with this? Like, 137 pages of just rambling incoherence is not really a lawsuit. Like, you should go and hire an actual attorney if you plan on suing us. And he wrote back, I am an actual attorney. I've been involved in $1 million cases. And I was like, all right, well, you're going to need to do better than this. And
hey, I just graduated law school and I can write 10 times better than you.
That launched us into a lawsuit frenzy where I was sued. I think the grand total was 15 times. I was sued in California, Oregon, Washington State, and Florida. I was sued in state court, in federal court. Mr. Shipley was the defendant with me in at least 4 of the cases that I remember. And it went on for 3.5 years. And if any of you out there want to have a really interesting read, look up Bernath v. Seavey. The case is pretty well documented, but in the end, remember, he sued me. And in the end, I got a $1.3 million judgment out of him. And he didn't want to pay that. So he kept fighting it. And about the same time, he went to jail for harassing Chief Shipley. And while he was in jail, as I was telling you before, Mitch, he was only allowed 1 piece of paper a day in prison. So he would draft out his legal argument on 1 page, front and back, and then he would send it into the court. So every day I would get an electronic thing that said, you know, Dan Bernath has filed another document. And so I would read the next page and it would pick up right where he'd left off the day before, mid-sentence. And it was crazy. And then he got out of jail. He went to his house. He left a note that said, if I should ever die in a plane crash, Mark Seavey killed me. And then he went up in his plane and he set the low altitude flying world record at -6 feet as he went into the Everglades at 327 miles an hour. And he had in the greatest thing, like Bernath was never going to pay out. He was never going to pay a cent. There was zero chance that was ever going to happen. But what he did was he had his life insurance and his insurance for his airplane in his own name. So when he crashed, the plane proceeds and his life insurance went into his name, which I already had a judgment against. So
right.
He killed himself and ended up paying me $370,000 or something in his, basically in his will. And I got to think, like, if he had thought this through, that wasn't the way to do it. Like, there were much better ways of setting me up, but it was a wild case. And that was when I started to get out of stolen valor, because as you know, I had two young twins. I got a young daughter at home. I got a wife, and like, you can only sit by the window with your AR for so long before you have to take a nap. And not knowing when these people are going to show up is tiring. And you can't have, 3-year-old kids playing on the lawn when there's some lunatic who might come and shoot you at any minute. And we're not talking like I was getting maybe a death threat a year. We're talking we were getting 2-3 a week of people that were coming to kill us. And, Jonn Lilyea, who was This Ain't Hell, who did most of the stuff, was great. He's like, people would say, I'm coming to kill you. And he would send them like the map coordinates and the best route into town. He would annotate like the local gun stores where you could get ammunition. And he was like, make sure you leave a lot of time. And he's like, let me know how to return your vehicle to the next of kin. Like, he would go through this whole spiel. And thankfully, Jonn, they're on Jonn's. I was listening to one of them today. It's on Jonn's YouTube, where he's like, okay, look, you're going to take a left up the hill, but you're not going to see it. And I'm going to be the second house, but all you're going to see is the flash. So look directly at the flash. And it was just some classic stuff that I couldn't do. I had a young family at home, I wasn't in a position. So I kind of got out of it, but it was some wild days back then when we were doing that stuff.
It was. I mean, I was looking back on it, I think probably about 2010 to maybe 14 or 16. And then after you guys got hit, I just said, you know what? I'm done, because I didn't get sucked into that lawsuit. But when he made that fake web page up and he started posting all that stuff about all of us, I'm like, you know what? He's taking photos off Facebook of me and my family. I'm all right. I'm done.
He was doing it to everybody. Everybody who was a friend of mine in the military world was somehow ending up on this guy's radar. And it was like, it had gotten to the point, and especially with Bernath, it's kind of interesting that Bernath was the one that kind of broke the camel's back for me, because again, his Stolen Valor was so minuscule that like, if he'd have just come out and said, look, I'm going to hound you guys with lawsuits until you take it down, it probably would have been, I would have told Jonn, let's just take it down. Like, it really wasn't the hill that we wanted to plant our flag in. But when he came out straight up crazy out of the gate, you can't start negotiating with terrorists. And it just went on from there. It was a brutal couple of years for me, but I got a house out of it, and I got a Jeep out of it. So
I almost had an airplane too. I would have gone up there.
I got parts of it. I was like, can I claim my aircraft now? I mean, I realize it's in 50 million pieces, but maybe I can sell the metal, scraps or something. I don't know. But
they give you the tail number, the tail number off the side.
Yeah. The NTSB final report just came out a couple months ago. So I don't know what they do with the remains of the aircraft, but I'll let it go. I think
it gets hauled off somewhere.
I hope they do some sort of religious service over it, so he's not, ghosting me.
Stolen Valor's been around forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, there's kind of some interesting ones, like in researching it, like the guy who founded Scientology was famous.
Ron Hubbard,
Ron Hubbard is famously Stolen Valor guy, and the Hubble telescope. Hubble, I can't remember what his first name is. Another guy whose war stories were just that. They were completely fake. But he had story after story after story about what he'd done in World War I. And he had arrived like 6 days before the armistice was signed. But L. Ron Hubbard, like he was just making up stories about his heroics. And then we got into, you got into the Rambo days, where even the actor there that was the sheriff,
Dennehy.
Dennehy was Stolen Valor guy. It's like there was a lot of Stolen Valor. And then and even on to today, the problem for these Stolen Valor guys is they get caught in the lie early, and then they keep telling more stories.
Right.
But the technology catches up faster than they can modify their story. And there's just no way you're going to get away with it now. It's too easy to find. And particularly when they start claiming things like the Distinguished Service Cross, you can go on Military Times Hall of Valor and find the list of everyone who's got a DSC or all these other things. It's just not going to work anymore. The days of being able to do that are kind of over. But
well, I was at the gate one day. I mean, this is years ago. This must be in 2099, 2000-ish. I'm standing at the gate, and I have a Marine Corps lanyard on my uniform. Will hold my ID. And this guy comes up to me, and he goes, "Hey, I saw that Marine lanyard on there. I just want to say, hey, thanks for your service." I'm like, "Oh, hey, thanks, sir. Were you a Marine?" No, I was in the Army." "Oh, no kidding. Awesome. What'd you do in the Army?" "Oh, I was Special Forces in Vietnam." "Oh, that was cool. Cool. Very cool. Thank you for your service." Yeah, and he goes, "Yeah, I normally don't tell people this, but I received the Medal of Honor in Vietnam when I was there, and I don't throw it out lightly, but sometimes they upgrade me to first class and whatnot." And I go, "Really? Oh, that's what's your name?" So he gives me his name. So I run over and grab my cell phone, and this is days before I had a big laptop computer. I didn't even have it with me. Called my mom up, and I said, "Hey, Mom, do me a favor. Get on the internet. There is a Medal of Honor webpage that lists every single Medal of Honor recipient.
CMOHS.org.
And I want you to look up this guy. He was in Vietnam." So she looks, "Nope, no such guy at all. You've checked." "Yeah, no such name, no service, no such guy." So I go back to the guy and I go, did I spell your name correctly?" And he goes, yeah, that's my name. I go, "You didn't change your name or anything weird?" And he goes, "Nope." And I go, "That's funny because just looked you up on the Medal of Honor website and you're not listed as a recipient of the Medal of Honor." And he goes, "Oh, it was in Laos. It was classified mission."
Yeah. Oh,
right.
They're always, thanks.
Yeah, gotcha. Appreciate it. Thanks. Right. Enjoy, Coach. Enjoy that middle seat.
Yeah. Guess what, dude? You just got moved to seat 27B.
Yeah. It's funny. I sent there was a link on the FBI page or the Medal of Honor page to send a note to the FBI. And so I wrote the whole thing up. I got the guy's name, phone number, the whole 9 yards. He gave me his card. He was an idiot. And I sent it to them, and I said, "Hey, you need to set up a sting." He lived in like Tucson. "Set up a sting. Say that you're doing Boy Scouts
project.
And come talk."
Yeah.
And wear the medal.
Yeah.
Because they had printed up. We got a Medal of Honor. Zach Fike had received a Medal of Honor in the mail from some lady. Just had a handwritten note, said, "My husband died. This medal belongs to your organization. Thank you very much." No return address, no name. And it was one of the illegally minted Medal of Honor that was the guy had made, I guess, first Gulf War. He got the contract from the government to make 300. Or no, he got the contract from the government to produce them. He made an extra 300 medals. And the reason they knew how many medals he'd produced was how much yarn, the yellow or the blue ribbon or around the neck, how much of that he had produced using X amount of inches per medal. They figured out how many yards, how many medals that came up to was 300. And he sold them out the back door and on the black market for $50 a piece or $75 a piece. And that's how they ended up busting him.
Yeah, that's been illegal all the way through. The manufacture and sale of Medal of Honors has been illegal for, I think, forever, pretty much.
No, it wasn't until they got that statute.
Oh, is that? I thought it had been on. Okay, I could be wrong then.
Yeah, so from what he told me, when they got the statute done, basically they got it changed where you cannot buy, sell, or trade of any value the Medal of Honor.
Right.
Because, and I'm having a total mind fart right now. The FBI agent, he went to a gun show, and this guy was selling a Medal of Honor, and he worked security for the Medal of Honor convention and knew all those guys. So he ended up Tom Cotton.
Yeah.
Cotton. So Tom got that guy busted, pull out his ID and the whole 9 yards, ended up getting him. And then they got the law changed. So he had some great stories. Like they had a guy selling a Medal of Honor. He was up in Canada and Tom's going to buy it. And so he goes to Buffalo. I think it was like, no, it was over there in like Michigan where you walk across the bridge from Canada.
In Ontario to to Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah. And he calls the guy up and says, "Hey, man, I got a big issue. I can't come to Canada to pick up the medal." And he goes, "Why?" And he goes, "I got busted for DUI, and I'm not allowed to leave the state. So if I go across the border, I get thrown into jail. Can you come to my hotel room and I'll just pay you the money?" And so the guy walks across the bridge with the Medal of Honor in his pocket and shows up the hotel room, knocks on his door. And he arrested him right there, man. That was a great bust.
I was actually watching some video this morning of a guy. He had lied about just having Purple Heart license plates, and he didn't have a Purple Heart. But in his case, when it appeared before the court, they did have an FBI agent there who specializes in stolen valor. And it was good to hear finally that the FBI kind of has taken it seriously, because years and years and years, you had to deal with an individual FBI agent for wherever you were. Right. So every time there was a new case, it was a crapshoot on whether you got somebody that had the slightest clue what you were talking about when you call the FBI.
Right.
Now, at least they have a dedicated stolen valor guy, and he knows it inside and out. And he knows all the workarounds for like claiming it was, it was secretly recorded. And, I answered only to MacArthur. There are no records, like that whole shebang doesn't fly with these guys anymore. But in the old days, when you tried to call them, they had no idea. And we've had the problem. The other big one that we see all the time is guys who are convicted of some other crime, some like robbery or any crime. And then they'll go to the court and they'll be like, "Show mercy, I may have PTSD from my service in Iraq." And then we're sitting there and it's like, this dude never served in Iraq. Like he was in basic training for 12 days and they went home with a torn pinky toe or something, Right. But the court was like, there was no, like, you would contact the prosecutor's office and they'd be like, "Well, I don't understand what this changes." And it's like, well, this changes everything. Like his entire mitigation defense is that he's suffering from PTSD when he didn't make it through basic training. And it's such a hassle at fighting with those people.
This guy, he altered the DD-24 or DD-215. He altered it. Okay. And that's altering federal government documents.
Right. So
the NCIS agent took it to the AG and he said, "No, we're not going to prosecute this guy. I mean, what do we get out of, taking a 73-year-old man to court, right? What do we get out of taking this old guy to court? We look like jerks." And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I get a phone call from one of the DAs down at Tarrant County, Doug Wallace, who's now a judge. If you're listening, Doug, hey, buddy, you're my hero. Doug was Army, Marines, the whole 9 yards. And he took this case and he told his boss, he goes, "Wait a minute. So if my dad robs a bank, we're not going to prosecute him because he's 73 years old?"
Right.
No, this guy broke the law. Right. So they got him on a second-degree state felony. And I was like, I'm fine with that. That was good to go.
Some of the states have definitely picked up their work in the absence of federal. There's been a couple of state statutes that are like in weird places, like Connecticut has a pretty decent one now. Yeah. Because we've had guys, for some reason, we had a string of guys, like New Jersey was our number one problem for the longest time. We had, there was a specific guy in Connecticut who was like he was a psychiatrist and he was in the Elks Club, or I'm trying to remember the specifics of him, but he was faking being a psychiatrist and like an Afghanistan veteran. And every time somebody would question him about it, he'd be like, "Oh, my beeper went off. I've got to run. I'm going to Afghanistan in the morning." And I was like, "What are you doing? Like, what is happening right now?" And we kept calling the state. We're like, "Are you going to take away this guy's license, or are you going to do something?" And they're like, "Oh, well, he doesn't have a license to take away." And I was like, but he's still doing this nonsense. It's most of the local people had no idea how to deal with it. So it's good that the FBI is stepping it up, but we still run into it all the time. Most prosecutors don't have any idea what this stuff means.
Right. Well, unless they're
military, if they're a veteran and they know, but it's like, and then you're still running the gambit. Like this guy in Georgia that I was watching the video of, he was convicted on 6 felonies. And granted, they weren't huge felonies, but he had been a police officer. He lied to get into the police. He lied to get Purple Heart plates. He lied when the investigators came. He lied. He is convicted of 6 felonies out of 7. And the judge gave him 15 days home detention and 600 hours of community service. And it was like, that's not a disincentive, really. It's like, okay, so he got a job and he got free plates and he got out of his tax bill and he got all these things, and his bill is 600 hours of community service. Like, I do 600 hours of community service and I haven't done anything wrong. Like, it's crazy to me, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, they've got to start, stepping on these guys. And then, I mean, so you got the guys that never served, that wannabes.
Yeah.
We got the guys, the ones that killed me are the guys that served but inflated it.
Yeah, the embellishers.
Yeah. Or McSoul Patch.
Yeah.
Who's wrapped up in all of the political annex down in Houston.
Yeah, McSoul Patch was a wild one because, I mean, he literally showed up. I mean, he is wearing an Order of the British Empire around his neck, in addition to like an SAS ribbon and everything else. Now he had shown up at the when the mayor of Houston was elected. He had shown up at their like LGBT ball thing, and this guy showed up wearing this. And so we'd contacted the news and we're like, this guy is lying. He claimed to be a brigadier general, still serving, looking like that. And so the news crew went out to his house and they have video of him answering the front door. And they're like, we're looking for, and I can't even remember what is something McManus. They're like, we're looking for McManus. He's like, oh yeah, he moved out. And it's like, we're going, no, that's him. Like, that is the dude. Like, can't you just look down and see it's the same guy? And the guy, he was literally wearing like a CIA hat. And he's like, yeah, no, that guy moved out. And so the news crew was like, oh, this guy says he moved out. And it's like, what do you mean this guy? That's the same guy. Like, yeah. And eventually they caught on. Oh, yeah, that is the same guy. And so they went back to his house and they're like, what are you people doing? Like, it still bugs me that this hasn't become like a TV show, because it would be a very well watched TV show.
I actually wrote, treatment to do a Stolen Valor show with a buddy of mine years ago who was writing screenplays in Hollywood. Yeah. And he came back to me. They had presented it and done a couple of presentations. He came back and said, nah, right now Hollywood doesn't care about this unless it has aliens in it. Military and aliens. And that was about the time Invasion LA came out or something like that. They won't make a war film, but if it has aliens, they'll make it.
Yeah, I mean, this guy
was one of my favorite right here. And if you guys haven't seen these, folks, go to This Ain't Hell.
Yeah, it's actually Stolen Valor. It's stolenvalor.com now, because we gave up when John passed away. It was just easier to move the website than to keep the old, like Google was giving us problems. So we got a new URL. So
okay, because I got the sandgram.com.
Yeah.
I used to write stories. You can go actually way back to when I was in Iraq, and it helped my PTSD to write stories at 2 a.m. But this guy shows up at his high school reunion with a Navy Cross and his boyfriend. And this Navy commander reservist who just come off a joint tour goes, I know a lot of Marines, and I don't know a lot of Marines that would show up at their high school reunion with their boyfriend.
Right.
Because don't ask, don't tell. It's still kind of a big deal. And then she sends it in, and they check his Facebook, and there he is as Master Gunny.
Wow.
Same dude. Now, the thing about this guy,
he flew through the ranks. Let's give him that.
Yeah. The thing about this guy, look at that damn rack.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it costs to have all those anodized metals, tilting this way? Because he was so heavy. I mean, I look at that and I go, that's like maybe $400 worth of
right.
metals that this idiot, plus the uniform he had to buy. Why? I don't get it.
That's a lot of money outlay for a lie.
Yeah, it's not even Halloween. It's like showing up at your high school reunion with your friend, and hey, look at me, Navy Cross.
I bought the dress blues from the Army. I think I've worn them twice total. I wore them at like Bush 1's inauguration, and I wore them at a Medal of Honor thing where it was the World War II memorial dedication. Other than that, it sits in my closet. Like I've never once felt the urge to put on my dress blues and go walk around town. Like I mean, maybe
Well,
people
you're
are.
never a Marine, man, because we do that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, more power to you. It's just, it wasn't a very good drinking outfit, which is really what I wanted to get into.
Oh, man. All right. So when I was on recruiting duty in Kansas City, I mean, that place was very patriotic. And I was dating this girl at the time, and I said, hey, I'll meet you at she was sitting there talking one night about how guys buy her drinks because you're a real pretty girl. I said, you know what? We'll have a contest on Friday night. Friday, I'll meet you at happy hour at Talk of the Town, or whatever the bar was in Olathe, Kansas. I said, I'll meet you there, and we'll see how many drinks each of us get. And so I showed up. She shows up. I'm in my recruiting uniform, and I mosey up to the bar. And, I didn't put the stipulation. It had to be a girl buying me a drink.
Yeah.
All these guys are coming up. Hey, Skipper, let me buy you a beer. I was in the Marines. I was a private, blah, blah, blah. And they were buying me beer. So and the rules was you had to have all the empties. The bartender would come up. Hey, man, can I take these? No, leave them.
Yeah.
So I'd have all the empties there. And she finally gave up when these two girls come up and they go, oh, my brother's a Marine. He's out at Camp Pendleton. His name's Lance Corporal Smuckatelli. Do you know him? I'm like, no, I don't. But hey, come hang out with me. And I had a girl in each arm. She's like, that's it. And she walks around the bar. She comes up, pushes the girls out of the way, says, all right, you won.
The only time I ever remember that I wish I had my uniform, when I came back from Afghanistan on my 14-day leave, all I wanted to do was go to an Irish pub in Old Town Alexandria. Murphy.
Yeah, Ireland's own.
I wanted to go to Murphy's in Old Town Alexandria. And so when I got off the airplane, I changed into my civvies and I got in the cab and I went over there and I got to the front door and the guy was like, hey, you can't come in tonight. It's a private event. And I was like, come on, man. I just literally flew in from Afghanistan and all I've wanted all along was to go in there. And he's like, all right, okay. And I was like, what's the event? And he's like, it's the Young Republican Women of Alexandria. Oh! And I was just like, God, are you there? Thank you. And it was like the only time, like if I had been wearing my uniform, even without the uniform, I was pretty golden because I was, I literally still had dust on me and walked in there. It was the greatest night in the pub of all time. But yeah, I could see that happening.
Oh man, when I came home from Iraq, all I wanted was a margarita. So we went from DFW, I'm in my camis, and we went from DFW to Esparza's little Mexican place in Grapevine. And they have top awesome margaritas. So we're sitting there eating, and I'm having my margarita, and in walks Jimmy Johnson, Howie, and Terry Bradshaw.
Must have just done a Monday Night Football or something.
No, they were just hanging out.
Wow.
And so they walk by, and Terry Bradshaw stops, looks at me, and gives me a like that and a thumbs up. And so we're sitting there, and next thing you know, the owner comes up and says, Senor Bradshaw would like to buy your table a pitcher of margaritas and buy your lunch. And I'm like, no way. So I ran back out my truck, got a coin from our unit, came back in because at the time they did these commercials on FEN for us. So I went in there with my wife and we got pictures taken with them. They were really, really awesome.
I don't know why you'd go anywhere but Hard 8 there in Coppell, Texas, whatever. Coppell.
Yeah. Good barbecue.
Hard 8.
I want a Mexican, man. I want a margaritas and I want a Mexican.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Mex who can. It's Taco Tuesdays. Come on.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
Well, Mark, man, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me for this past hour. And for all the folks out there that have never experienced Mark Seavey, go check out the Burn Pit. Check out stolenvalor.com and maybe some of the old stuff on This Ain't Hell.
Yeah, you can find me kind of all over the place. So.
Yeah, you're like me, man. I think I have no private.
No, I've long ago decided that like if you're gonna try to keep anything private, people are gonna find it. So I'm just like, throw it all out there. I'm wide open. It's much easier, Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I figure they'll find me and like John would say, hey, here's my address. Yeah. Come get it, man. I got something for you.
Anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you've ridden in the Ferret, so
I have.
We have a little speed bump contest. Next time you come down, we'll go find a Antifa rally.
Yeah, I gotta bring my twins down. I think they would go.
Bring them down anytime, brother. Well, listen, Mark, I want to have you on again. We'll go over some other old cases because I know between us, I'm looking at my file of pictures, and I must have 20, 25 guys that I really loved busting.
We used to do 64 every single year because I would put them into an NCAA style
Yes.
tournament. And yeah.
Oh man, I remember when we had that contest for a couple years until the whole lawsuit thing started and he got upset.
Yep. That was what curtailed it.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed being a judge on that as well. That was fun.
Yes. So.
Shoot. Well, listen, I see a bunch of people. Actually, I should say, does anybody have any questions they would like to ask Mark right here? Any questions you would like to ask?
If it's Rick Langell asking it, I'm not answering anything. The man's a liar.
Who?
Rick Langell, is he on there?
I haven't seen his name.
He's a buddy of mine from a long time ago back in the Army, and he said he was going to be listening today. So,
Let's see
if you're out there. I miss you, buddy.
I got a couple things. Paula, how you doing? Billy Morton, he had Don Jenkins, Medal of Honor. Don Jenkins, Medal of Honor on his flight. That was pretty cool. Yeah. I like this, man. I need to figure out how to post pictures.
That's pretty slick how you can show the comments up there.
Yeah, let's see. This is your buddy right here. TK569. I am here. Hey, man, you got any good stories about Mark you can tell me, and I'll publish it on the air.
Yeah, he knew me way back, too.
Hey, do you remember that time you emailed me and you said, hey, I'm coming back from Afghanistan, or was it Iraq?
I will never forget that, because I've always said that was the greatest moment of my life, because I had been stuck in Afghanistan. I was trying to get out. I was a journalist, and I was in Afghanistan. I got stuck. I finally got on a flight to Dubai, and then I got stuck in Dubai for like 20 hours with all my green, all my Army kind of stuff. And so I'm standing there, and then I finally got on a plane to Heathrow, and then the pilot met me at the gate, and he was like, hey, you know Taco? And I was like, yeah, I know Taco. And he's like, yeah, he just he called me up. We got you squared away. And I remember I talked to you that day, and you're like, whatever you do, stay awake and have the food in first class is amazing on that. And I was like, absolutely, 100% we'll do it. I fell asleep before that plane took off, and I woke up over like Newfoundland. And I was like, well, I guess I missed the food. But that was the first good sleep I got in months. So, yeah, I remember 100% remember that.
Yeah, I remember flying up to Chicago and meeting you when you got back. I had to be on a flight up there, and it just timing worked out really well.
Yeah, that was a great moment in sports history there, because I was so happy to get home.
It's always nice. You know what? If I've got a buddy or I know somebody, I'll contact a crew like Mike Strobel, who wrote Taking Chance.
Yeah.
He wrote that email that went viral. He's a buddy of mine. He's going to be a guest on.
I still haven't made it more than a minute and a half into that movie, and I don't think I ever will be able to. I would sob openly just reading the letter. It's like, yeah,
it's you'll have to watch the show when I have Mike on, because he wrote that as like an after action thought of the whole deal, and he sent it out. It went viral before viral was viral.
Yeah.
And it ended up in a mailbox of some Hollywood producer who went through all the forwards, because they didn't cut and paste. Nobody knew.
Yep.
And he found his email address, government Marine Corps email address, and he wrote him. And that's how it became.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think it was Black 5 that I saw it on for the first time. And they had talked about him all the time. 100% remember that. Yeah.
Great moving thing.
Yeah.
And I had my summer leadership character development academy I created for MCRIC. We would take the kids, and on Friday we would do a community service deal, right? So we go to the Quantico National Cemetery and we cleaned gravestones.
Yep.
So we're cleaning them all, and they've been working their butts off all day. We get back to Camp Upshur, they get a shower, and it's movie night. So I got movies for them. We're going to watch Taking Chance. How many people have seen it? Maybe a few hands, not many. We watch the movie. We get done. I stand up and I go, so what do you guys think about Lieutenant Colonel Strobel? Oh, sir, he was incredible to volunteer to take that young Marine home and blah, blah, blah. And I go, I ask maybe one or two more questions. I go, you know what? This is not fair. I can't answer these questions that well. Why don't you ask the real guy? Mike, come on up. I want you guys to meet my friend, Mike. So Mike would come up, and they would spend the next hour and a half talking about, and he would talk about the movie, which was really interesting because the production, you know, a lot of it was condensed or combined.
Yeah.
To make one person. It was like 3 people, and they'd make one person. They said because of the flow of the movie, you had to have some humor in it. So like he's sitting on the airplane, and this girl's texting. She goes, "I'm sitting next to a hot soldier," and he leans over and goes, "Marine."
I'm friends with a guy who was one of the main characters in Generation Kill.
Yeah.
So I have heard this before, and he's like, "Yeah, they combined a lot of things."
Yeah,
you know, similar. He's like, "Yeah, I wasn't quite that guy." You know, like, no, I get it, understood.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I thought they did a good job. I would love to get Kevin Bacon on just as a sideshow because he's played 3 great Marines in over the years, and I would love to have him come on the show to talk about what he did to play a Marine. You know, and kind of
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with Taco Bell. So
that would 6 degrees of separation, right?
Yeah, you'll have it. You'll be 1 separation from Kevin Bacon. So
that's it. I would win the game.
You're golden. You're in that sweet spot.
Well, Mark, I tell you what, brother. Thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely.
And you have a great night. Give the kids a hug. Give your wife a hug for me.
Hopefully they're going to be asleep. Oh, they might not be asleep by the time I get home. I might have to delay it. Anybody who's got twin 3-year-olds will understand.
Well, folks, thanks again for another Tall Tales with Taco on Tuesday, because it is Tuesday. And hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. Mark, I'll see you. Have a good one, brother.
You too, buddy.
Hoorah.